introduce Nick Otter, our guest speaker, and about his journey with addiction. Please welcome Nick.
Hello. Okay, so this is not an awesome topic. This sucks. It is horrible. But one of the great things about it is it does allow us to open a conversation about how we deal with this in our communities, right? So a lot of the time, us as addicts, and I'm going to be referring to us, meaning all addicts as well as myself, for the majority, all right? Because obviously I don't know every single addict in the entire world. But for us, a lot of the time we are thrown into these thralls of addiction not only because we have a genetic predisposition, thank you, but not only because we have that, but also because we're running from something, right? We're running from lack of faith in ourselves. We're running from lack of faith from other people in our abilities. Or we're running from the fact that people are telling us that we're great. We have all these amazing talents. We can affect real change in the world, but we don't believe them, right? Because how can one person, one tiny little person who's done nothing in their life, who spent their entire life growing up being told that you're going to do great things, but they're an average student, right? They're getting C's and D's in their classes, and their friends are telling them it's okay, D's for diploma, right? You're going to graduate, you'll make it through, but your parents are sitting there and pestering you every time you come home saying, hey, why haven't you turned in this assignment? Hey, why did you get a bad grade on this test, right? As children, we're brought up in this competitive world where not all of us are designed to function. So now when we become adults and we're thrown into the real world, or adults, we're not prepared, right? We come into it with this idea that every single day is a new opportunity, and when you have a new opportunity, nothing that matters or nothing that happened the day before matters, right? So with this instilled in us, this belief of every day is a new chance, we get to start over today. Well, if I get to start over tomorrow, why am I going to quit today? Right? I haven't hit my rock bottom. I haven't had that moment where I've been at the bottom of society. So I'm just going to continue going on as I have. Right? Now that's the overarching theme of what I want to talk about. Now, from my own personal experience, so you have an idea of what I've gone through, what I've put myself through, because keep in mind, everything that I have done in my entire life is entirely self-inflicted. Wow, language is doing me good today. But so all of these self-inflicted things, from running away from my parents' home while they're still in it, a few days after I turned 18, because they told me that the fact that my friends who I had had over to have a 4-day party weren't allowed to have put out cigarettes on the furniture. And well, how dare they try and tell me, 18 years old, I'm a man, that I can't do what I want with my friends in my house, that I don't pay for, that I get to live in, that I've never paid for any piece of food in, right? How fucking stupid is that, right? So that is the beginning of the worst chain of decisions that I have ever made, right? That was followed very closely by a couple of uniforms in here. Hi, how's it going? No, but so that was followed very closely by, me walking into a movie theater on more substances than somebody should have ingested, and throwing Milk Duds at the screen until I realized that the screen wasn't trying to attack me. And then running outside because I was overheating to the point that my entire clothes, from the shirt and sweatshirt that I was wearing, through my jeans actually, I had sweat through, right? I'm sitting there thinking I peed myself, which is not an uncommon occurrence for somebody who's on a daily basis taking drugs, right? This decision then led me to my biological father, which I was really excited about. And then I decided that Xanax was more important to me than my family. Second time in my life I've made a decision like that. First time was for cocaine. And I left that house as well. After that, I was living with my at-the-time girlfriend, who's not sitting here today, thankfully. I have a much better girlfriend with me today. But That decision right there marks the worst decision I have ever made. Everything that followed that decision to move in with her didn't matter to me. And it didn't matter to me because I was on so many drugs. I mean, on a daily basis, I was smoking crack, I was smoking heroin, if not shooting it. I mean, I was smoking meth from the second I woke up to the second I went to sleep. And on top of that, I had to fit the whiskey under the passenger seat of my car. I was never not fucked up. From the time I was 11, when I decided that it was a good idea for me to start smoking weed and for me to try and figure out how to get cocaine, to the moment I turned 20, I wasn't sober a day in my life. Not once. And then after having moved in with this girlfriend and saving her from the third attempted suicide that I walked into, I found myself homeless for the first time. I was living out of a Mustang. I was working at a movie theater, and I was working there from about 4 until 10:30 at night. Then I had a job in San Francisco where I was working at a Christmas wholesaler, right? So I had a full-time job as a Christmas wholesaler, selling ornaments, shipping them across the country. And then I had another part-time job as a movie theater attendant. On top of this, I was supporting a drug habit that, luckily, my dealer was only 2 blocks away from my job in the city. So again, I was supporting my drug habit with legal jobs, but I wasn't contributing to society. I was getting into fights at work. I mean, it was a pitiful time, if any word could describe that. So I've been through enough of addiction from the addict's perspective to understand that going out and hanging out with friends isn't the same anymore. I go out and I hang out with friends, and if they're drinking, the best analogy I have ever been able to come up with for that is the fact that somebody has ripped your arm off and then is playing frisbee with it in front of you, right? I can't go to a bar. I can't go to a brewery and be comfortable yet. I've been clean for over 4 years, and I'm still not comfortable in those environments because the second I walk down the beer aisle in Safeway or Freddie Meyer, I'm thinking about what I can grab. I'm reminiscing about the taste of it, right? And it's not that, you know what, a rum and a ginger beer with a little bit of lime sounds really good. It's that, fuck, I need that right now. How am I supposed to stand up here in front of a bunch of people who I may know maybe 4 of you in total and speak, right? I have no substance. These are the things that we tell ourselves when we're a drug addict. We don't have worth, right? So then when somebody in our family comes to us and tries to help us, right, and they offer that hand, right, we're drowning. Most of us know we're drowning. We just don't care because it doesn't hurt, right? Heroin wraps this great golden blanket around you that ceases all feeling, both emotional and physical. It makes it impossible for you to understand what it is to be a part of the world because you're above it, right? That's why we call it being high. It's because you're above everything in your own mind, right? I mean, nowadays we have people, in fact, as a personal trainer, I had friends who were personal trainers who were not sober a single day, right? They would take legal hallucinogens, Catrum, in California. I don't know if it's legal here in Oregon, but you can buy that at any smoke shop in California. You take 4 of those little guys, tell you what, it's gonna feel a lot like you're on mushrooms, right? And this is something you can buy over the counter. So, with all of these available to us, why are we spending so much time on these? Why are personal trainers showing up to train their clients while they're hallucinating, right? Why are people going out on these excursions down to South America in order to try ayahuasca, right? These are beautiful substances if used correctly. They have the ability to open your mind and kind of show you some new things. But the problem with that is a lot of us, like myself, are not prepared for what the real world has, right? And it's not that the real world is an overly scary and dangerous place. It's that we just don't understand it. But we think that it's everybody else who doesn't understand us. So it's your guys' fault. Thanks a lot, guys. But in reality, these are all images we're creating for ourselves, right? So when I got clean the first time, It was a 37-day process that led directly back to a relapse. But it was interesting because I got clean and all of a sudden I cared, right? I had 37 days of clarity. I was able to sit there and understand the fact that my family loves me. My family has done everything in their abilities to make sure that I am going to be a good person. I may not have been ready to listen to them, but they were doing everything they could. Now, again, I moved back into this loving family. I mean, you guys all know my mom. She's better than I deserved at the time, right? And as addicts, that's how we come back from the streets. In fact, my chappie, is what we all called him, last rehabilitation center I went to was called the Salvation Army in Reno. When I went to the facility, it had a 2% completion rate. I am considered a failure. I did not complete the program. I got kicked out the first time for a string of write-ups. We won't get into the details of that. But the second time that I went and I had a much different experience. And it was because something that the chaplain had said to me, Salvation Army being a Christian rehabilitation center, it's a 6-month program. He did an interview, and as we were talking about it afterwards, as a group, because we had 80 of us, most of them from prison, living in this warehouse and working together, we're sitting there having a discussion about why he had said the things he had in his interview, right? In this interview, he had said that when we come in off the street, we're not able to love, right? We don't even know how to accept love into our hearts. We don't know what that feels like because we've never given it to ourselves. We've supplemented it, right? Guy who goes to the gym takes creatine in order to help make his muscles bigger. We as addicts take drugs in order to make our egos bigger. They don't need to be bigger, but we think they do. So it's with that thought that we kind of have an opportunity to walk into a new world with addiction and have better discourse around it, right? Because you are a person, and you are a person. I know absolutely nothing about your guys' previous lives, but I can tell you that if you come to me and you tell me that you're an alcoholic, right? I'm not saying that you are. But if you come to me and you say that, we have this instant connection of, I know how much that sucks, right? And as addicts, there's also this misconception that people have, sorry, hi camera, that when we relapse, it's because we want to. When I relapsed, it wasn't because I wanted to, right? The circumstances leading up to that were actually entirely of my own making, right? I led myself to this situation where I could make the decision to do this again. And it was funny because I had told my parents I would be home 48 hours later. I drove from Reno to California. I literally drove straight there to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I walked out of that meeting and I was berated by a couple of people who were trying to convert me to what they believed. I puked on their shoes. And then I told them that they could go screw themselves and I was going to go sell my $300 phone to go buy more heroin. 37 days, and it was because somebody said something to me that I didn't like, that I decided that I was going to get high again. Because I couldn't deal with the fact that somebody else believed something that I didn't believe, right? The big part of this story with all of my personal anecdotes here is, yes, I was a shitty person. And yes, I was a criminal, right? But if you talk to me today, I don't speak the same way that I did, right? I'm able to have that connection with you, and we're able to actually create an understanding with each other of your main drug of choice may have been alcohol. It may have been even sugar, right? Let's talk about diabetics for a second. That is an addiction in and of itself, right? Every single one of you here will have some form of an addiction. It is a matter of how we associate with that allows us to have conversations with other people in our lives regarding that, all right? So the big thing here, because I'm going to shut up in a second and let you guys ask me questions if you have them, is if you have a friend or a family member who's going through this, if you truly want to love them, if you want them to learn what it is to receive love and to be loved, you have to stop loving them for a little bit, all right? One of the major reasons I was able to relapse was because I come from such a loving family. They forgave me instantly the first time. The fact that I had gone to rehab was enough. It was enough in their eyes for me to become a different person. It's not the case, right? We still need to learn how to love. And if you can't cut that part of your heart off for a little bit when it comes to your friends and family, you're just going to keep on enabling them. And then all of a sudden we're going to run into issues where I come to a gorgeous town like Gold Beach and we're driving through and I'm told that you guys have a minor heroin problem here. I don't know if this is true. I am told things because people like talking about drugs to me, because I'm open about them. But if we're able to love each other and spread that and not enable each other to use these substances anymore and actually hold each other accountable for them, we can have a different world. It's just a matter of taking that step and learning that loving somebody doesn't always mean contacting them and knowing who they really are. Sometimes it's giving them the space to fall on their face. Anyways, if you guys have any questions for me, personal and otherwise, please feel free to ask me. But that's the main thing. Love your addicts, but don't enable them. Okay? All right. Any questions? Drugs, rehab.
I've got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
You always hear that people on drugs are escaping
Yes.
from the real world, but they're escaping to something else. But what if that something else is really nothing? I mean, you said it's this nice, warm, comfortable feeling. I'm just trying to, I guess, understand in my own mind what the thing is that you find, or is it just pure escape?
So, from all of the people that I have spoken with in both meetings as well as in rehabilitation centers, the overarching theme that I see between all of us is the fact that, yes, we are escaping reality because we're scared of it. Okay? Now that goes for the Aryan warrior who I was in treatment with, who I sat down with in our smoking lounge, concrete fenced in area, being nice. But I sat down with him there and had a heart-to-heart conversation about the fact that he had started using drugs not because he was interested in drugs, but because he was homeless. He didn't have a place to sleep that night. Well, one of his brothers told him that this will help. So for him, he started down the path of addiction by wanting to be warm at night. Because this is a guy who was a criminal, as I said, was an Aryan warrior. You can make your own assumptions about that, but I think we all have an understanding of what that means. And he started using because he didn't want to be cold. So we all have these little things in our lives that we want to escape from, and it may seem minuscule. It may seem like, you know what, I have this craving for a Snickers right now. Which actually I don't, it's a Baby Ruth, but we'll say it's a Snickers, because Snickers satisfies. But, sorry. But if I give into that, I've lost, right? So let's say that you have this great love of chickpeas, right? You can't survive without them. You have to have a meal with chickpeas every single day. That feeling is the same feeling that we all have. That love for chickpeas is the same that we all have. But our love takes us away from reality and distances us from you guys. That doesn't matter to us. Because you have to remember, it's our egos that we're feeding. So the escape that we're looking for is not an escape from reality, or let me change that, is not an escape from what we can see, touch, and feel. It's an escape from who we are, so that we get to be somebody else who we think is better, because you're more confident, right? I mean, there's a beautiful scene, emotionally beautiful scene, not graphically, from a movie called American History X, which is a terrifying movie. It's a very realistic movie. And there's a scene in it where this guy is shooting up on a bus. He comes out of the stall at the back of the bus, and it's interesting because you see I love drug depictions in movies, by the way. But you see, as he's walking to the back of the bus, it's a very dim lighting. It's very plain and flat colors, very muted. And then the second he emerges from this bathroom, having shot up, they have one of the most clear representations of how you feel. And it's vibrant, it's bright, everything's beautiful. He's got this cocky little grin on his face, and he's just kind of strutting down the lane as he's going back to his seat, right? And that's how drugs make you feel. They make you feel like somebody elected you president and then declared that you're the king of the world. So our escape is from the fact that we're not worthy of being in this world. It's the fact that we want to be better, but we're not willing to take the daily steps it requires in order to be better. Right? So that's the escape. Now everybody has their own specific thing they're escaping. Personally, this is really stupid, but personally, I was running from my family, right? I thought that I didn't deserve a loving family. I didn't deserve to have been born into as good of a family as I had, right? It is literally the bottom of the barrel, stupidest reason to do anything. But that's the reason I did it. And then I have the Aryan warrior who wanted to be warm. He just continued doing it. And then there's the guy who sat on my chest for 12 hours so that I didn't go relapse the first time I was in that facility, who he had started using because his business partner sent their business bankrupt by stealing a bunch of money from their business. He then lost his family and was kicked out of his home because his business partner had screwed him over. He started using because he had nothing. Everything had been taken away from him except for the fact that I am able to feel something, and I'm going to make sure that what I feel is good. That's what drugs gave him, right? Unfortunately, he has a very sad story aside from what I view as saving my life that night, because I had packed my entire bag and was going to go relapse and was not planning on coming back. He wound up getting off of parole. He was clean for a little bit over a year. And then the day he was let back into his house, gorgeous day. He has his family back. He has his wife back. He overdosed and died. We don't do these things because we want to. We do them because somebody has taken our arm and is playing with it in front of us. Escape. A little bit different for everybody, but very same. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Two things that you said. You were 11 when you started? Is that what you said?
So I was 9 when I started getting drunk. I was 11 when I started smoking weed as well as buying cocaine.
And you
How did you have
said,
money to buy cocaine at the age of 11?
Sticky fingers.
your parents have cash laying around the house. And you also said we're predisposed to it, so genetically, like a lot of people that are addicts had parents that were alcoholics, et cetera, et cetera. When you
Sorry.
think that's true, that the majority of people.
So there's actually studies that have come out that prove that. So we as addicts have what's actually an extra allele when you look at our X and Y chromosomes, right? So you have these 23 chromosomes, and of those, they kind of tell you what you're going to do throughout your life. Now, what I'm saying when I say this is not that if you have this specific marker, you are an addict, because there's tons of people who have it who aren't. What it is this, it's called the A1 allele. And what it does is it's responsible basically for ensuring that you can think things through. We don't have that. And so if we don't have the ability to think through what's going to happen to us, then how are we going to be able to understand what we're doing to ourselves with drugs? So yes, clinically, genetic predisposition is a factor. Addiction is technically classified as a disease. So I could sit here and I could, tell all of you that, well, since my father was an addict, I was an addict, so this was unavoidable and this was just the course of my life. It's not the case. We all have free will. We have the choice to pick up for the first time, and we have the choice to put down for the last time. So yes, it makes it easier for you to get sucked into it and to get stuck. no, it is not an excuse for doing any of it.
Thank you.